Hail, hail. Good evening, folks, and welcome along to this special edition of the Endless Celts Podcast. My name's Anthony, and the host here tonight. Delighted to be joined by two of the show regulars, fresh from the weekend celebrations. Ross and Franny, how you doing, boys?
Good, mate. Obviously, we're on to talk about some not so great news, but I'm still good. I'm all right. I'm digesting it.
I'm very similar. I'm a wee bit tired, but it's getting close to my bedtime. But we're all good. It's
quiet.
A bit quiet, innit? But absolutely, mate. It is later than scheduled one tonight, just due to availability. We didn't sort of go ahead with one last night. We sort of agreed, sort of best as a podcast to wait until the news was absolutely official, because there's no point doing a live reaction to something that's not officially happened yet, as it was well pointed out. But so the topics were originally going to be about the final and then the rumours, but I think we have to turn that on its head tonight. Ross, come to yourself first. The official news broke earlier on today. Ange Postecoglou is no longer the Celtic manager. He has agreed terms and a 4-year contract, I believe, with Tottenham. Just short of his second anniversary, he's unveiling as Celtic manager. He joined on the 10th of June 2021. I think it's safe to say he was taking over a club at the time in the absolute doldrums after the mess of the COVID season, where the dreams of 10 in a row had went up in smoke. But he totally regalvanised the club with 73% win ratio, a Champions League appearance, and 5 domestic trophies out of available 6, obviously culminating in that historic treble win on Saturday, which we'll talk about more. Just want to sort of get your initial thoughts on it before I'll do a little snippets of the statement and that in due course, but just what your initial feelings on it were.
Well, obviously, it's been rumoured for best part of 2 weeks, certainly a week anyway, that he's been going to go. He's been trying to stave it off. We've all seen it. The more, you could understand he wasn't able to talk about it, but I think he knew about it. Well, I don't think he knew about it. He did know about it. But it started off, I was like, no, he's not going to go. He'll probably stay. He'll have another crack at the Champions League. He's not finished this project. Then the longer it went on, and then right up after the final, his interview after the final, I was like, he's gone. So I've had 2 or 3 days now to sort of let it not sink in. You know what I mean? It's not like we're having a death in the family or that. But it's just, like I've said, you're sort of digesting it. You've went through the different emotions. But, listen, I'm not frightened to admit I loved Ange. I love Ange still. I think he done an amazing job for us, and I've said numerous times that he's probably my favourite ever Celtic manager, and I'm not going to come away from that just because he's left us. I said when we were trying to weigh up whether he would go or stuff that I could understand why he's went. I can still understand why he's went, and on sort of slightly ignorant during his time here as to how he left Yokohama Marinos, and that he left mid-season to come to Celtic. The Japanese league isn't as prominent as a league as Celtic. The team he was at isn't as prominent or as big a club as Celtic, and he left them in similar fashion to what Rodgers left us. But I think the Japanese aren't as bitter about it, and I think they realise that their league isn't probably as, I don't know if it's not as strong, but it's certainly not as prominent, obviously, in terms of getting seen for teams in England and around Europe and stuff like that. I think the problem with Celtic fans is that
I think he's talking about who sits in like a definite family.
Aye, as I. What was I saying there? I lost my again.
The Japanese, the sort of the prominence of the Japanese.
So I think the problem with Celtic fans is we do understand that our league isn't as strong as the English league, but because we're such a big club worldwide, I think it's harder for us to understand why somebody would leave us, even though he's going to a stronger league. He's going to a team who have got a higher ceiling than Celtic. They're not as big a club as Celtic, not by any stretch, but they've got a higher ceiling. They've got a bigger budget. They'll attract, whether we like it or not, a higher quality player. Ange is 57. I seen somebody had said, it sort of slagged Ange about his integrity and stuff like that, and said, there's a man with integrity. That boy, is it Arne Slot for Feyenoord, saying, Ken, he had the chance to go and he knocked Spurs back. But the difference with that is Arne Slot wanted to have a go in the Champions League with Feyenoord, a tournament which he's never managed in. This time last year, Ange had never done that, but he's sort of a year ahead of their tenures, if you like, in terms of Celtic and Feyenoord. And Arne Slot is 44, Ange is 57. So there are reasons why Slot has knocked that back. He's got more time on his side. Ange doesn't know if he'll get another opportunity like this. I feel that he probably, or I would have liked him to have stayed for at least one more year. But if he stays one more year, that Tottenham job maybe isn't available. And there's no way that, well, in the modern era, no Celtic manager has been afforded a opportunity at a top 6 team in England. Not even Martin O'Neill have been afforded that. This was like the Celtic one. It's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity for Ange Postecoglou. He's worked. For me, I hope he goes down there and proves. I believe that he's an elite level coach, and I think he is. And some people might laugh at me. I believe that he is off the level with a Klopp, and I hope he goes down there and proves that. And I think that he has served his time in the backwaters of football, and it's only due to him being Australian. Geographically, if he had been European, he'd be managing at that level of a Klopp and stuff right now, in my opinion, already. So I'm tinged with disappointment. Obviously, you look at some of the sound bites and stuff. He used the Tommy Burns line, and he said things that you now think, with hindsight, maybe he didn't mean it. You could make that case. I try and look at it. I've had time to sort of digest it, as I say, and I look at it in the sense, he said they things. I still believe he's a man of integrity. He said they things, like the badge hitting and all that. He's done the things at the time because that's how he's felt, in my opinion. It's like sort of an example. If say you're marrying somebody, right? You tell them you love them. You commit to them and all that, because that's how you feel at the time. But if you end up, no, this is hypothetical, right? If you end up meeting,
something you want to tell us here, Ross?
No. But if you end up,
hang up some washing.
If you end up 10 years down the line or whatever, you meet, I don't know, Pamela Anderson, just for talking sake, right? And you fall for her, and then you end up going with Pamela Anderson because she's absolutely mint it. It doesn't mean what you said to your wife 10 years ago when you married her was a lie. That's how you felt at the time. But things change, people move on, and certainly in football, that's what happens. We have to accept that geographically, managers who do well with Celtic are eventually probably going to go to the English league. And to get a job like Spurs, it's a project that Ange, he said it himself in his parting sort of statement, that it was an opportunity he wanted to explore. I fully understand it. I fully get it. And I just feel like he gave us 2 unbelievable years, like you'd alluded to, Franny. Hope she has, isn't it? I actually used this analogy to Sharon earlier on when we were talking about it, so it's all good. It's okay with her. I'm quite comfortable saying it. But aye, listen, it is what it is. I want to just thank Ange for five trophies out of 6 and allowing us to watch some absolutely scintillating, brilliant, some of the best football I've watched as a Celtic fan. Outstanding. I hope he does well down there. But we move on, and we're looking ahead to a new manager, a new team. in a new chapter in the unbroken history of Glasgow Celtic.
Yeah, very much so. Just before we go any further, just a quick a wee funny fact for you there, Ross. Just with you mentioning the great Pammy. You remember years ago when there used to be like that show on the telly that Fred McCauley used to pronounce? It was before Red, Amber, Green. It was like it was one of these shows called Now You See It, and it was like folk from schools used to like apply and like play against each other. And our Kev got like picked to represent St Kent's. And like you imagine our Kev, 11-year-old, with like, the big specs and that on, and he got asked what his lifetime ambition was, and he says to go on a date with Pamela Anderson. We've still got it somewhere. We looked out, so great minds with great taste. Clearly, think alike.
That's it, kid.
But obviously, we see a lot of folk coming up in the comments as well, and thanks to everybody that's tuning along. Coming up, their own thoughts on today's news, and obviously, naturally, we start talking about who the potential successor to Ange will be, and we will be coming on to that in the next part of the show, guys. So we will be discussing all these potential candidates who could be the next chosen one. But Franny, just before I kind of go into, and we are going to touch as well on, I think we're just getting the initial thoughts just now, but we are aware that there are a lot of, there's very mixed feelings out there about this, and you guys will get these sort of points across as well. We will be bringing that up because we appreciate it, that it's not a universal sort of view of the all the best sort of thing. But I think, Ross, I can't really say anything against what you're saying there. I think you kind of eloquated your thoughts very, very well. Franny, you got sort of similar views, or is there anything? What's your sort of initial feelings on the announcement?
I think we were all manners of emotion, every one of us, on the group chat and things like that. Willie's taking it really bad. Like he was all in with Ange pretty much after his first press conference, I think it was. So I think he's taking it a wee bit bad. I think he was thinking about coming on the night, but thought best of it. But it's just similar to Ross and that. You were a wee bit, didn't want to believe it was happening. Then it does happen. You're like, well, a wee bit gutted and stuff like that. It's emotions have been a wee bit all over the place, Anthony. I know folk are maybe alluding back to some of the things he said. I'm with Ross. I think he said them at the time, believed him. The Tommy Burns one, maybe. I don't think he's doing that to try and play at the gallery. So I think he said that with good tensions. Like I think obviously after Trophy Day, I think he knew there was a good chance he's probably going to Spurs at that time. And I think that statement's been in pure innocence. It is like Ross was saying, it's how he's felt at the time. It's maybe just now in the benefit of hindsight, poor choice of words, but also folk can then look back at these things, like the Tommy Burns thing, like the sort of hitting the badge and stuff. The comment where he said, I think you'll be surprised how long I'm here and things like that. I mean, I don't think the Tottenham job was available when he made the comments, and this was around the time when he was getting all, like, folk were touting him for like Leeds and Crystal Palace and things like that. So I think he knew he was above that, and it was one of the ones where he just, how he always had the media on toast a wee bit. And again, I think it has surprised us how long he has been here. I don't think at the time when he said that he thought, I am going away in the summer. He probably at that time felt, I will be here longer. Every manager in the past has said wee things like this, Anthony. They will play at the gallery, so to speak. I think time will be a healer, as they say and stuff, and you'll maybe change your opinion on Ange. Probably not massively, but maybe some of the wee sound bites and that, I feel like that he done, you might go, well, it was just playing to the gallery. But managers in the past have done it, players in the past have done it, and they'll do it again in the future. It's a fickle nature. It's football. It's the business of it. And like Ross said, you can't, whether we like to admit it or no, Celtic fans, if you try and take the sort of Celtic bias out of it, you can't knock back Spurs. I'm sorry, I don't see how we can knock back Spurs in the current situation and stuff. It's a massive job. The Spurs job, if I would have all liked him to stay for another year, have another go at the Champions League. He alluded that he wanted to do that and try and make us a force in Europe again. But He may go into the Champions League and get us out the Champions League group stages into the knockout phases. Whether we get through that tie or not, is it such for them? But there's no top job in the EPL. Whether you like that league or not, that's the league that most managers want to be in. It's the holy grail for a lot of players, the holy grail for a lot of managers. I don't believe he's got to be really lucky to have that opportunity again in a year's time. And then if he then hangs out at Celtic, could things maybe change? He maybe doesn't have a great time in Europe. And then there could be that sort of level of job available again, but he's not got to get it on the back of a poor campaign again in Europe. So it's all about timing in these things. And it's, like I said it in the group chat as well, like football is sort of it's different in the sense that it's the only profession it seems that it's frowned upon or you're vilified for actually trying to improve yourself and like improve your financial status and stuff. And the lure of London as well is massive for folk outside Celtic. The lure of London is absolutely massive, whether we like it or not. And like Ange, he doesn't really owe us anything, does he? And I believe he is a good man. He's maybe said some things like he might in the benefit of hindsight go, well, especially Tommy Burns one. I think in hindsight will be like, it's maybe poor choice. I maybe shouldn't have said that at the time, knowing I was probably got to be leaving here in 10 days' time or whatever it was. But I've absolutely no real ill feeling towards him. I'm more annoyed at just how it's happened and stuff, but I don't think there would have been a right way to do it. Obviously, folk have said maybe he should have said in his interviews, "Oh, I'm away" and stuff, but I think he's tried to do it in such a fashion where the fans can enjoy Saturday as much as they can, enjoying the season. You can't, like, if he comes out and goes, "I'm away," then folk have got to be in a downer, but and no coming out, it kind of taking away, but away for the celebration because you're like, well, is he away? Is he away? You're not really concentrating on the celebration. You're like, oh, I don't know if he's staying or not, but I'll wish him well. Like, the guy came in after a shit show of a season, came in alone, and he's leaving the club in a better position for the next guy. So I've absolutely no ill feeling towards him. I hope he does well, like Ross. I hope he goes down to the APL, does well, but we move on. I'm not want to sound bitter, but we move on. We've got to kind of focus our attention elsewhere. But if you've got ill feeling towards him, that's fine. You're allowed to be raging, be this. It's like we said, it's the emotions you go through, but we'll deal with it differently. I think it's what happens. It's the fickle nature of a football fan, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely, it's just about the way that we're wired, I suppose. I totally take on board what Franny's saying there, Ross, with regards to. I think that even although geographically it's a shame because nobody can deny the size of the club that we are, but we are not playing in as big a league as the Premier League. I think for a lot of Celtic supporters, and you could probably say across the Clyde as well. To a large extent, we accept it. It's the richest league in the world. It's certainly the best marketed league in the world. We understand that there's going to be a want from whether it be players or supporters to go down there because we north of the border, I think, do recognise the attraction of it. Where it frustrates me is that never seems to be reciprocated by pundits or supporters or large sections of the media down south in regards to the size of Celtic. We were even talking the day on Sky Sports, guys that were middle of the road, Tottenham players going, this is him joining the big time now, as if he wasn't at the big time for the last 2 years. I think that's what's probably angering a lot of the support just as much as the news itself. It's this sort of thing that, oh yeah, Celtic's is not on our level. We've spoke about it in a lot of ways. If Celtic were down there, they would be, they would dwarf pretty much 90% of the teams down there. But right. That's the way it goes, I suppose. But I'll bring it on to, like you say, that I know there's a lot of folk in the comments that aren't happy about things, and I'll come back to you yourself for this one, Ross. As I say, the statement itself, I'm not going to read the full thing. We know some of us, we've all got work tomorrow, but just a couple of bits. Michael Nicholson says it's been a great pleasure working with Ange, a great football manager and a good man. Chairman Peter Lawwell says, against any measure, Ange has delivered a fantastic level of success to Celtic, and we thank him. And of course, Ange, the manager himself, says Celtic's a phenomenal football club and so much more. I will forever be a supporter of this great institution. To be fair, I find that, it was very much off the road. These statements are certainly, when Celtic, they come out of Celtic, they're always very professional, very polished, and there's nothing that can bring shame or anything to the club. But it does have to be said that certainly we accept that there's a lot of it that is kind of proper Twitter sphere nonsense. But we have to recognise that there are a lot of sort of respected sources, or certainly more respected sources, that are suggesting that behind the scenes, at least, certainly where the board at Celtic are concerned, that behind these sort of warm words on the statement itself, that they are, shall we say, less than impressed with how these events have sort of planned out. It's actually in the statement, both on Michael Nicholson's side and Peter Lawwell and Ange himself. They all recognise that Celtic have made a very good offer for him to stay. They believed that was going to be signed, and that the sort of demands that Ange wanted were going to be met. One of the journalists used the term blindsided. It perhaps paints a picture that behind the scenes Celtic aren't happy with how this is all came about.
Well, no, I don't think they are, because I don't know if it's absolute factual, but I think he'd been offered something like, I can't mind the length of the deal, but he was offered, I think it was maybe £30 million transfer budget. They were going to improve the training ground. Was it Barrowfield? I think they were going to add seating to it or something. I can't mind exactly, but there was a whole deal in place with, obviously, all the demands that Ange wanted were being met. And listen, I think for all intents and purposes, Ange would have signed it had this offer not come from Tottenham. And I also don't think this offer would have come from Tottenham had the boy Munn not been appointed in April, who's obviously Australian and just got ties to him. I don't think Levy, off his own back, would come up to Scotland or Celtic or any club in Scotland and take their manager off them to take them to the next stage, unless he was advised by someone, in much the same way as a very much doubt Celtic would have came and took Yokohama Marinos manager after failing with Eddie Howe, who they thought was the man. But this is how it's panned out. Again, Ange should said himself that it was an opportunity that he just had to explore. I used similar term in previous podcasts, talking about when we were talking about would he go. I felt it was a very real possibility, and it's transpired like that. But I've heard, certainly online and stuff like that, people talking about Ken sort of blaming Peter Lawwell and the fact that it's no coincidence kind of thing that he's come back now and just want to leave. I'm awfully glad that we put off reacting to this until it was official and we've seen all that stuff. I mean, the board could be feeding us bullshit, but I highly doubt it. They've accredited words to Ange. They wouldn't do that, or they couldn't do that without Ange's say so. There is absolutely no way that this is any blame could be laid at the board on this. Absolutely no way. And if you think that, then you've still not got over the COVID season, in which we all admit it wasn't good, but Celtic have moved on for that and moved on really well and delivered so much success. And obviously, people could say maybe Celtic were a bit lucky to get Ange. They possibly were, but for me, I don't care what MD says, Celtic didn't pursue Eddie Howe and then a day and a half later or whatever it was, just pluck Ange from nowhere. He must have been on some sort of list at some point. But for me, it's just bizarre that you could possibly even think to blame Peter Lawwell on this saga. Ange has just wanted to explore a really, really big opportunity. Like I've said, that maybe wouldn't come around again for him. Certainly no to go to England to a club like Tottenham. I think if he was to leave Celtic after that, it would have been to like a Brighton or a Leeds or something like that who had come in for him before. I just don't think that it's got anything to do with Peter Lawwell. I know that we've not heard anything much for him really at all for he's come back in. He is obviously having a say in things, and I do get that it's still essentially the same board. The guys have left and come back, and Don Mackay came in and then he left, and then Michael Nicholson. It's been a bit of a merry-go-round, and there's no been much change. But I really don't think you can lay any blame at Peter Lawwell's door. I just don't. He's just, like I say, he's had a massive opportunity. Again, I'll say they're not a bigger club than Celtic, but it's because of the league they play in. And managers worth their salt all want to test themselves in the top 5 leagues in the world. Ange has had an amazing opportunity. What was that?
Sorry, I thought you'd read it, mate.
Well, that's your opinion, Mark. You've listened to me tonight. You obviously get that I don't agree with that. I don't think he's played the sport like a fiddle. Like I say, I think he's said some things that I'm not quite happy about. But again, I'll say it. I think a lot of what he said, he's felt at the time. I don't think he's just said it to. I'll get to say it again. He has played to the gallery on some things, like Franny said. That Tommy Burns one, it was maybe. I don't think he probably thinks now he maybe shouldn't have said that because he probably knew then that he was going. But no, listen, everybody's entitled to an opinion. I don't fully agree with that. I don't think I've not got any ill will towards Ange because of the scintillating football that he delivered on the park, and it's at the end of the day. He isn't a Celtic supporter. It's a job to him, and a job that he done very, very well. And listen, it's like anybody else, and I know it's not the same scale or money we're talking about, but if I'm working in a job and I get offered another job to go and earn myself a bit more money, I'll certainly look at that. And if everything aligns and I'm happy with it, I go and take that job because everybody wants to make as much money as they can. But not only that, in football, you want to test yourself at the very highest level. And Ange's got that opportunity. I have no problem with
it. That's fair enough, boys. And Franny, just before we move on to the obviously the next phase, and that as we will be moving on literally, as we discuss who Ange's successor will be, just what's your own thoughts on the kind of the sort of more negative sides to the to today's announcement? Obviously, there's a lot of supporters who they'll feel aggrieved. Perhaps some people are saying this is the fault of the board. Other ones saying Ange has been more than it's been more on the fault of Ange rather than the powers that be at Celtic Park. Obviously, none of us are privy to. We'll never know the absolute truth. I think we're all kind of resigned to that, same as we weren't with Brendan Rodgers and other managers. But what's just your own take on things?
I say we'll never know the actual truth, Anthony. We'll only be able to speculate with what we hear, all the WhatsApp messages that get floating about and stuff that for all your in the know folk and things like that, and it just adds to the speculation and stuff. And the fact that I don't think, obviously, we're so emotionally attached to Celtic and things like that, much like everybody else in the comments, like all the fans and stuff. And then you start looking at all the comments that maybe like well, just we may as well talk about Ange, like, but even just any manager, you start looking at comments that maybe made recently in his time when they move on, and I think just the emotion that you then just start distrusting everything. You don't really want to, you don't believe anything. You feel like you've seen this story before and things. So it's just, it is almost like, I think it was Alistair Jackson there. It is just like losing that lassie you were away for ages. You just question, you start questioning everything, and you don't want to. You believe one thing one minute, then believe something totally different the next. It's a merry-go-round of when you lose a manager, and I think certainly the majority of us a podcast anyway, and probably every fan that liked it, we just enjoyed the football. We enjoyed this 2 years. I think it was for where we were when it came over. I don't think we could have actually imagined we would be where we are now. But it's just, I think that's what's kind of maybe folk are feeling a wee bit better and stuff, and I get that. You might just feel a wee bit better about how he's left, and as sometimes it can be hard for us to look at Spurs and go, I think Celtic are a bigger club than Spurs, but brand wise, Spurs are bigger. Spurs are just simply because of the EPL, and so it's just a hard pill to swallow when you lose what has been one of our best managers, certainly this millennium. It's one of the best. Like Rodgers, is he better than Rodgers? It's hard to say. It is hard to say, but if you say is it, I get why is it. He certainly played better football than Rodgers. I'll give you that. But it's just a weird one, Anthony. It's you get caught up in it all, and you end up maybe arguing with folk that it's just silly. You just need to vent your frustration. But when it comes to all the stories about who offered what and who done that, we'll never really know. I believe the Celtic board probably did try and get him, like the whole thing with Desmond. Like I think it was, I don't know how true it was. I can't remember hearing anything at the time, but I've maybe just totally forgot about it. But I think after season 1, Celtic maybe tried to offer him a longer deal similar to what they'd done to Brendan Rodgers, I think, and then Ange's maybe just said no at the time. He was happy with the rolling contract because it puts the ball in his court essentially.
Signed a 4-year deal at fucking Spurs though.
I know. It's kind of just contradicts what I'm just saying there, really. Well, that'll be me shot down, Ross. I thought I was making a good point there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean it like that.
Franny, sorry, I'm going to actually probably do the same as well, but I'm kind of going to put maybe back, doing something I very rarely do, and back the board a little bit as well. Now, you remember when he came in, just that, I mean, there was weekly protests outside Celtic Park at the time. I remember even the opening match at Tynecastle. Obviously, the grounds were still closed to away fans, and it was very small numbers were allowed in. There was a protest outside about sack the board and all that on the opening game of Ange's season. So we remember Ange was not universally welcomed with open arms, and thought that this was a great appointment. If we start, can you imagine if not knowing what was going to happen, if we'd handed a 4-year deal to a relative unknown as well? So it swings and roundabouts, doesn't it? I do feel a lot of the time, sometimes with the people that run Celtic, it can be they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. But whatever they do, they should have done the other thing in some people's eyes.
No, it's actually a really good point you make, Anthony. You kind of forget about the protests a wee bit, and they were actually so soon as well. But I suppose you've got to kind of cut the board some slack. Like you say, it wouldn't have been a good look if they offer this guy a 4-year contract, and after the season we had prior, and then it kind of goes tits up again. It was not with the whole, when you think of the whole carry on of that season, and what felt like years chasing Eddie Howe, and then like Ross, I think Ross said it earlier, like I don't think it was Ange was never on a list. I think it was maybe plan B or plan C, and it was the whole carry on to try to get out Howe, That was so bad.
Thought you thought your tea there.
The whole carry on of chasing Eddie Howe, then that just falling flat on its face. I think it was just one of the ones where, not saying they had to just get something done quick, but it was maybe one of the ones where we're like, well, who have we got to look at after Eddie Howe? Right, well, we can get Ange in pretty quick. And so obviously I think it probably is a good point with like offering them, like not offering them the 4-year deal, and whether it's right or wrong, it's rolling contracts is what Celtic's done. Martin O'Neill was on it, Strachan was on it, Lennon was on it. Rodgers is the only one that's never he signed on a rolling contract, but then
started on one, yeah.
So it's like I say, I'm not saying it's right, but there's reasons behind it.
But they've not done anything different.
No,
Even with Rodgers, they've not done. Every manager that's come in has been put in the rolling contract, but Rodgers done. Well, I know that Martin O'Neill and the guys done really good jobs, but Rodgers done an amazing job. He won an invincible treble, and he was put on a big deal, and he took the deal.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, I think that Ange has been offered a deal after his first really successful season, but he hasn't took it for whatever reason.
I think that's precisely what's happened, by the way. I think that's exactly what's happened, and I think that's maybe where, as I say, listening to some of the more respected kind of, reporters on it, that I think this is where perhaps there is an element of the board themselves feeling a bit not so happy with it. But regardless of what actually happened or happens, the fact of the matter is Ange Postecoglou is no longer the Celtic manager, and pretty soon white smoke will bellow from the chimney, Ross, and we will have another new manager in charge to take us forward. Much different to the last time when Ange was unveiled. As I said at the start of the show, we were a mess. There's no two ways about it. The club itself will always be an attractive proposition, as we've seen with quoting the likes of Eddie Howe at the time. But whoever comes in will have a trophy room full to bursting. We'll have a squad of very good players on long-term contracts. So if anyone where to go, they can command some decent transfer fee. We have that absolutely fantastic guaranteed Champions League football to look forward to in the autumn. And a big, obviously, summer tour where our exposure will be even. We'll have even bigger exposure in the Far East as well. So all of that paints a very attractive job offer as far as I'm concerned, on top of being the leader of a fantastic football club. Naturally, the bookies have got a few, their favourite, and obviously Tony, who does the stats drop with us, has said, be very much wary of, bookies' favourites when it comes to managers, but a lot of the kind of expected ones are in there. I can never pronounce his name, but I know he's now the bookies' favourite, and the Bodo Glimt manager. Is it Treble?
Nedel Knudsen or Netel Knudsen?
Right, I'll take you. Obviously, Marquesa from the Manchester City group. Brendan Rodgers,
that's right.
He's perhaps going to make a return to the club with potentially Scott Brown as an assistant. We've seen that rumour bandied about. Also another few from down south, David Moyes, Graham Potter, Jesse Marsh, also in amongst the proceedings. If you want to be a complete fud, you can stick a fiver on Stevie G as well, and you'll get absolutely nothing back at 500 to 1. But such is life. But in terms of yourself, again, going back to the statement today, Celtic did confirm that the process is already underway, and whilst they aim to announce the appointment as soon as possible, our priority will be to appoint the best candidate to take the club forward, which again is kind of goes without saying, I suppose. But do you have a preference at all if somebody was to give you, all the power? Who would you go for, and who do you think will end up getting it?
Lowest risk, highest reward would be Brendan Rodgers for me, but it might be short-lived again. Whether he would come back, I'm not sure. I don't know. But you know what you're going to get with Brendan Rodgers? A good football team, which we've already got. He'll, at the very least, maintain that level. So I know it'd be difficult for some or a chunk of the support to accept him again, but I think when he came in and started winning football matches, the fickle nature all would be forgiven pretty soon. But listen, I think that probably won't happen. I think Brendan Rodgers will probably, regardless if West Ham win this Conference League, I think they'll probably part company with Davy Moyes. So I think Rodgers is probably holding out for that job. I don't think we can wait that long. We have to get a manager in place sooner than that. I know Ange came in very late and we done a full rebuild and we were okay in the end, but you don't ideally want to wait that long. You want to get the guy in as quickly as possible, but not too quickly you're not doing your due diligence. But I think Rodgers probably won't happen. Graham Potter, I think, is a decent option off of that list. He didn't have a really good time at Chelsea, but he's done very good jobs. He plays very good football with Swansea, done it with Brighton. Obviously, De Zerbi's carried that on and made it probably even a bit better. But again, I think his stock is still pretty high in England, regardless of what happened at Chelsea. I see him probably going to Palace. So that leaves you probably only off the list. And listen, Celtic might have a bigger list than that. This is only the bookies list, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't know. Celtic might pluck some for some there that we don't know. But going by that list, that leaves you, Maresca. I think he's not got enough experience. I think although he's worked as sort of number 2 under Pep Guardiola, for me, it's that high risk with him not having the experience. I know people say, well, he'll probably come in and play good football with obviously working under Pep, but for me, it's a no. I wouldn't want that. I think you're left then with Neto Knutsen. I think, obviously, I've heard people saying you're only going off because he beat Roma. But I watched this team play against us last season and they played us off the park, really. And Celtic are obviously a bit further on this year than what they were at that time last year. I think they would probably hold their own a bit better. But again, he plays that style of football that would carry on what Ange has done. But he's won. I think when he took them over, they were in the second tier. Norwegian, was it Norwegian football they play in?
Sorry.
Whatever country, but they were in the second tier and they brought them up. And then I think he's won back-to-back titles there. And he's took them to a European semi-final. And obviously Ajax are interested in them. I mean, Ajax are not going to be interested in somebody if they've not got some level of ability as a manager. But again, if we want to get him, I think we'll have to probably act pretty quickly, especially, as I've said, the Ajax are in for him. But probably top of my list would be Rodgers. Then it would probably be Knutsen or Potter on a par, either or. But you're probably looking at the best chance of getting would probably be Knutsen. So it's a difficult one now, but hopefully, Celtic have started the search, and listen, if they get it as right as they got it with Ange, bring it on. But we'll see what happens. It's a really, as much as we're in a really good place, it's a really big appointment because we're sitting here now, like you've just described, all the trophies, the good place that the club is in there, Anthony, but yet we hear the noise coming from across the city thinking that this is all their prayers answered, and because Ange is away, then Rangers are automatically going to be winning the league next year. Celtic lost. Who was it? Ronnie Dyler left. We lost to Rangers in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. Ronnie Dyler left. We were in disarray. Rangers were coming up to put the foot in our neck. We won an invincible treble, brought Rodgers in. Rodgers left halfway through a season. We were in disarray. We were going to lose the league. We weren't going to get our third treble. Neil Lennon came in, absolutely seamless for a period of time. Won another treble. Won another treble after that. Then it went sour. It was an absolute okay. We lost a league title. Lennon left. We were in disarray. What are we going to do? We bring Ange in. We win a double and we win a treble. So let's make no mistake. Celtic will only stop because Ange. And by the way, sorry for using that line, but Celtic won't stop just because Ange is left. Celtic will keep rolling on. Celtic will get a new manager. Celtic are in a really strong position. And even if we do lose a couple of players, well, like you've said, we'll command big money for them. And Celtic will buy again. Celtic got more money than Rangers. Celtic are stronger than Rangers. Rangers need a hell of a lot more than Ange Postecoglou to leave this great club to allow them to win a league title. We're ahead of them still now, even though we don't have a manager. And I believe and hope that we'll get the right guy in soon.
Absolutely superb, Ross. Couldn't agree more. And obviously, we are going to touch on us having the three major honours at Celtic Park just in a few moments. But obviously, we do have to pay tribute to our friends across the Clyde as well for obviously their own treble this year. You know, the Close the Gap Cup, the Dead Rubber Cup, and obviously now the Celtic Managers Left Cup. You know, it's been a fantastic season for, you know, followers of football clubs that don't win actual trophies. But, you know, what can you do? We just enjoy and welcome the chase, as we say. We enjoy it. And Franny, what about yourself? Who would you, if it was up to you, who would you like to see get the nod at Celtic Park or to make a return to Celtic Park? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I would take Rodgers back in a heartbeat. Like, I know how he left wasn't great, and Ross is bang on it. It would be very, very decisive. The more you sort of look into it, I know he was pretty short odds at one, like fairly recently with the bookies and stuff, and I think he was favourite for a wee bit. But the more you sort of you look at it, I don't think I had a great relationship with Peter Lawwell. The majority of the background, the majority of the board are still there that he didn't really have a great relationship with. So I just didn't see that one ever getting off the ground, really, unfortunately. Because I think, like Ross said, it's the absolutely low risk one. You know, you're bringing in an elite level manager, a guy that's a proven winner, knows how to win in this league. He won every trophy available to him when he was here, and so he knows what he's doing. He plays a very similar style to Ange. Appreciate the formations are a wee bit different, but in the main, it's a high pressing sort of a quick sort of a style of football. Ange's was slightly more attractive, but Brendan Rodgers is a good manager. Could probably adapt to the players that are there and things like that, or get the players to sort of play more in the style that he would be more accustomed to. But for me, if there was any possibility, if you were talking to Rodgers, I would be going all out to get him, because I just think it's Rodgers way. It'd have a point to prove to the fans. It'd maybe feel like it's unfinished business and things like that. Like saying he knows what to do. I just think it would be out there to prove a massive point to say I know I left in a bad taste, but I'm back to sort of repay or try and make amends for all that. But I do appreciate it could be very decisive, very divisive, and it's probably, would it be the right appointment considering that you I think it is an important sort of appointment we need, that maybe you want at least, you've probably never got to get 100% of the fan base happy, but you'll be trying to make an appointment which is got to get the majority of them on side. But for me, it would be Roger Potter. I would have Potter in a heartbeat, but I just think his stock still just, even though Chelsea wasn't great, I think it's, when you look into the Chelsea thing, it's one of them. I think he was kind of hard done by a wee bit at Chelsea. I think his stock's still high enough in England, so unfortunately, I didn't see him coming up here. But that Knutson, the more you kind of read about him, the more I like about him. Like I'm not going to pretend to know much about them. I'm basing them on what he kind of done that season when they put us out of Europe and stuff. And it looks good. He seems to play the most similar style to what Ange did. I think Wargame will want a wee bit of continuity. The best way to sort of keep progressing without the only championship manager sort of experience in management is, I would hope for a wee bit of continuity in the manager to keep the playing style similar. He plays the same formation as Ange. So I think realistically it might be Knutson. Maresca, I think I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel it's maybe an easy or a lazy one to put his name forward simply because he's like Celtic are by default a wee bit part of this City group without officially being part of the City group. We've had plenty of players in the past. Even Postecoglou was part of the City group. So I think it maybe is. That's why Maresca's name comes up. He was there last year. Like, it's 2 weeks to look at, like, the Parma thing was an like, Pep Guardiola probably doesn't have bad folk as number twos, but being Pep Guardiola, like Arteta aside, Arteta is looking like a top manager, but that doesn't guarantee you Maresca's got to be one. You just need to look at Parma, but that Italian league is a wee bit of basket case league at times, but I think he won 4 games out of 14 or something, so it's a massive risk, I think, Maresca. But again, it's part of the City group. He'll play the same way. So is it really? And then I've even seen folk talk about Kevin Muscat. But again, I think that's laziness. It's one I'm not totally against, but is it maybe just a lazy sort of suggestion, just kind of off? Because I think he then managed Melbourne off the back of Ange leaving, then he managed Yokohama Marinos off the back of Ange leaving there and won titles at both teams. So it maybe seems like a seamless link, but again, is that just laziness because it's the City group? But for me, it would be Rodgers or Potter, then that Knudsen, Jesse Marsh. He was horrendous at Leeds. He was absolutely horrendous. He was good at Salzburg, but horrendous at Leeds. And I think I don't know. My top 2 are Rodgers and Potter, but I don't see any of them coming. But maybe we will be surprised with the level of manager, hopefully in a good way, because Dermot Desmond, when he usually gets involved, like you obviously seen that picture that was released with him and Lowell and Ange fairly recently. Then obviously it was very public. He was there at the cup final as well. Dermot Desmond. Usually when he gets involved with Celtic, it's usually good. Like he brought in Martin O'Neill, he brought in Rodgers, brought in Robbie Keane and things like that. I know it didn't turn well out for Robbie Keane, but when Dermot Desmond usually gets involved, it's usually a massive statement they make. So hopefully he continues that trend, Anthony, when he announces the new man.
Here's hoping, mate. Here's hoping. But yeah, as we say, whoever said manager is, I think it goes without saying. I'm sure I can speak for us all on the show that he would definitely get all the support for this for the Endless Celts, and I'm sure the vast majority of the Celtic family, and provided the success just keeps on coming, I think he will get a great reception, and we'll wait in due course to when the official announcement's made or who that person's going to be. But boys, just before we round off tonight, obviously the mainstream media are going to do their best to try and gloss over it, like they do with most historic things Celtic achieve. So I think we have to end on a very positive note, because no matter how we feel about Ange leaving, one of the facts of life is that his final act as Celtic manager was to break a world record, or set a new world record, with a historic 8th domestic treble for Celtic. 3-1 winners in the end against Inverness at Hampden on Saturday. know you guys were all together at Gracie's bar at Casa de Dobbin. Sorry I couldn't make it up in the end, but as I say, I can't fault Lindsay's. We had an absolutely brilliant day as well, and I think I've just about recovered for it, to be honest with you. But just, Franny, I'll come to you first. Just your feelings on the day, the achievement, and where we go for here.
It was an absolutely superb day. I mean, it's mad to think we've been on here for 55 minutes. We've not talked about the fact that we broke a world record at the weekend. Mental, but that's just, and I think that I think a lot of that's why folk are annoyed maybe as well. With the Ange situation is just the fact that we did make history at the weekend. It was a great day. Willie always seems he pulls out the bag all the time with these days out, and the sun was out. It had the barbecue on and stuff, so it was great and fantastic that Stephen managed to come over to the island and stuff. So it was good to spend some time with him and stuff. And I just sit and watching the football with your mates, like we spoke about recently on the podcast. Just watching Celtic, I suppose for any team, watching your team win trophies, surrounded by your mates, few beers, you just can't beat Anthony. And I suppose if there's any sort of thing you can take fans, at least they left us with a nice parting gift, a treble and 2 trademark goals, and Kyle goal and a Bada's goal were trademark Ange's goals. So he left giving us the treble, and so it was a nice wee parting gift, and a couple of goals just reminded us of the brilliant football that he brought Anthony. So it was a great day, all in. Really sore headed on the Sunday. Did not enjoy my drive to Glasgow to drop Stephen off at the bus station one bit, but I would do it all again. I'd do it all again.
Absolutely superb, mate. And Ross, obviously, I've seen a few videos and a few photos from the day myself. Looks absolutely tremendous. As I say, I know I keep saying all the time, I will need to get up to Gracie's for a proper sesh again, because I think I've only been up the one time when we had the Christmas party. But as I say, Wally pulled it out the hat again, and absolutely brilliant day for everyone connected at Celtic.
Aye, it was first class. Weather, Willie's barbecue, he pulled out all the stops. But I mean, the game itself, it wasn't an absolute classic like the game we spoke about on Friday, the 1-0 game against Tre8le. Not an absolute classic. We all predicted 8, 10, 6. I mean, I think we were all excited. Listen, it doesn't matter. It's a cup final. We controlled the game like we always do, from start to finish. Weren't outstanding, as I said, but again, this Celtic team get the job done, as they always do, on the big occasion. Obviously, I've said before, they obviously came up slightly short in the semi-final last year, but we were still building. This current Celtic team, when they need to turn up domestically, they turn up. That achievement has slightly been overshadowed by the whole Ange saga, and I think the media have loved it, absolutely loved the fact that they've not had to do as much coverage on the fact that we have won a world record breaking 8th treble. What was it, when Rodgers came in, we were on 7 years ago. We've now overtook the old Rangers, and we're closing in on the old Rangers and the new Rangers haul of trophies. I think we're one behind the both clubs put together now. I think we'll overtake that next season. I've absolutely no doubt about it. But yes, Celtic turned up. Well, I say turned up. They got the job done, and it was a fantastic day. And there's not much more I can say about this group of players and what they've delivered over the last 2 years. And I hope that we keep this team together, and the new manager can add to it and take us on again to the next level. And we have a right good go in the Champions League. I believe that, listen, if they back the new manager like they were possibly going to back Ange, and I think we probably will lose 1 or 2 players. Let's get real, right? We probably will. But I've said it already in the pod. If the manager is backed the way they were going to back Ange, I fully believe. Okay, you can't make the prediction that they're going to get out that group because you don't know who they're getting yet. But I think whoever we get, we're good enough to finish third in a group and have a run in the Europa League. If we get a good run in the Europa League and win a couple of knockout ties, which have eluded us for a long while now, we get a league title. Listen, I would give up the cups for that, for a really good run in the Europa League. But I still think we're good enough domestically to have a good run in the Europa League and still do a treble. I think that's how good we are domestically. And here's hoping that we go on to that next level. I think right now, if Ange was still the manager, I'd be sitting here saying we absolutely can go on to that next level. Obviously, we don't know who's going to be the manager. If they get that appointment right, we'll at least maintain the levels. But I think we still can get better.
That's it. Well, that's good way to round it off there, mate. As I said, it's been quite a few days at Celtic, but yeah, before we know it, the new season will be upon us, new manager will be upon us, there'll be some new signings and some departures, like you say, and we'll get ready to go again, because that's just what we do. And I just want to say before we kind of finish up, mate, thanks again to everybody for getting involved and commenting, and it's been absolutely brilliant. And if you're liking what you're seeing and hearing, feel free to like and subscribe. Just hit the wee notification button on our page, and obviously our show sponsors as well. Sharna, clothing range inspired by life on the terraces, some absolute belters. And once we get the one in the t-shirt in, we'll get that out to our Super 6 winner as well. So can't thank you guys enough for coming on tonight for the reaction pod to today's news. Despite the subject matter, have you enjoyed it?
Aye. Sorry for it.
Oh no, sorry. I was just
It's been good. Enjoyed it. It's something we had to talk about. Ange, again, he done a great job, but I'm just excited to see who we get in now.
It's for me. It's just been some good therapy, Anthony. It's helped just kind of get over the weekend. It's just good to talk, good to get out and look forward to who we get it in. Hopefully they get it done soon. But as long as it's the right, just get it right, Celtic.
And by the way, is the batteries gone in the baby monitor or something?
Aye.
see before we go. Oh,
aye. There he is. Ange's down.
That's it. It's the end of an era.
Big man's doing. Definitely, maybe he's going back up.
£200 well spent, kid.
Oh,
the Sham know that's how much you spent on it, aye.
Aye, she does, aye. We've been over that. We had an argument, but it's all right now.
Sorry if I've just reopened an old wound, but to be fair, it looks like you've got Pamela on speed dial anyway. But no, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And believe you me, when the announcement of the new manager is made, we'll be doing a reaction pod to that straight away, provided any of us are available to do so. But until next time, thanks again. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.